Hi everyone. Today I thought I'd bring to you a bit of an idea based on last week's thoughts that I've shared with you in terms of how do you understand uh, as I've brought it up before, the three pillars, which is placed on the Freemason board, how the earth is an actual flat representation of the board, or the board is the flat representation of the earth and the forces that are on the earth, the masculine and or the duality. And so I'm going to bring to you another thought with regards to that particular information. And I would like to ask you, if you've not seen the previous thoughts video, please to go back, listen to that, and then listen to this one, because this one is going to be giving you the, let's say, solution to basically how one needs to work on oneself. And I would say it's a bit of a shortcut, but the jump might be a bit high, and you would need lots of patience and tolerance to understand how it exactly works within yourself, of course. And so, what I would like to share with you is, have you looked at why things are so uh, perhaps out of balance? It's catastrophic in some ways. Its expression is almost apocalyptic, which is very much the enforcing of the chaos magic or the chaos work, to eradicate or to bring in a particular belief system or ideology, which we can see very much with regards to all the world events and the expressions of how the world events are managed in the various ways that they have been depicting it, whether it's an overexpression of a certain particular behavior, or whether it's a breaking down of a particular behavior, etc., etc. I'm sure that you have all been aware of this. So if you find that you still cannot make heads or tail of what is exactly going on, I can actually lend to you a simpler sort of explanation to understand it in its entirety. As we speak currently, I am busy putting together another lecture, which will be after this one. As I said before, I'm not going to go into detail about that yet, right now, but I feel it's important to share with you the insights. I am addressing the occult, but I would like to explain in what vein one must start to go into with regards to the wisdom. As I said, occult is the verb for sacred wisdom within. And the word occult has so much negative connotations to it. It's disturbing. And so I really want to urge you to unmake or revoke the contracts of being subjected to certain belief patterns and systems and thoughts and ideologies that have been projected so heavily in the society of the human race from the very beginning. And so I would like to share with you just a part out of the lecture work that I'm putting together for you to understand where I'm coming from. I actually have observed and noted that the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine principles or forces within the supreme creator or the great spirit or God or whatever you want to call the force of the universe has been segregated from each other. It's been split up. It's a deliberate segregation between these two forces that are meant to be in unison with each other. And I've also referred that the three pillars is a very one-dimensional sort of explanation as to observing how one must look at things. Now that you can see that there's a solar pillar and a lunar pillar and a star pillar on the tracing board, and I will put the image in for you to see, I would like you to see, observe, not to become involved in the actual message of itself, but to unlearn the ideologies that have been projected on the board itself. where I'm saying that ultimately it is, if you want to know what sin is when there is a deliberate segregation between the masculine and the feminine principles, and that ultimately leaves the star pillar or the youth or the eternal child, which is symbolically representing infinite potential. That is why it will always be a symbolic reference to the to growth, to creation as a child. A child is dynamic, and it is just a metaphor for the representation of infinite potential. Okay, it is not static, it means it's dynamic. And so I want you to take note that each and every human being within the existence of this reality and beyond this reality has a masculine and feminine principle within, irrespective of where it is placed within the self, where it is placed within you. The placement of your masculine and feminine principles is determined entirely by your soul choice, by where you see yourself, how you or what you are going to learn in this reality. And so if you are trying to establish, oh, but left must be male and right must be female, or left must be female and right must be male, stop. Stop entirely with trying to place the polarities or trying to place the principles in a particular order. What I'm trying to situate, or what I'm trying to establish with you, is to explain that the masculine and the feminine principles is masculine is creation, and feminine is the expression or the intuitive or the intention of creation, and the child, the infinite potential, which means that is the expression, your will to express into this reality what it is that you are seeking to do. And so we are talking about the creation process over and over and over in every form that you can find. When there is an imbalance between the masculine and the feminine, that means there is a segregation between those two. It means that you have broken up a part of your brain, part of your mind, so that you will only use one part of your mind to operate and do both both poles or both forces. And in that way, you then ignore all the other forces that are presently available or presently meant to be used within you. So I'll simplify this again and explain it a little bit in a different angle. So masculinity is denoted by the solar pillar, and the moon is the feminine polarity, and the star is the eternal child, or the infinite potential within, and it is also denoted as the star. How the information was deliberately, I think, perhaps also out of stupidity, and I'm going to be very direct here, that it was deliberately broken up so that one is unable to marry all of the parts together or to bring it all into unity. Your understanding of humanity is then rudimentary, and it is broken up. You only have one part to see. In other words, you are then polarized. So I would like to urge to you to start to explore your ability to think, your ability to become intuitive, your ability to express what you think. The cognitive thinking is the unity between the masculine, the feminine, and the expression or the infinite potential. And so thereby, that choice to deliberately shut off one part of your mind is either, well, like I said, deliberately done by expression of false information, or it is done where you are unable to see, more mind controlled, to cut off the parts that are important. for you to believe that that you are either you are unable to create, and you are, you are just a woman and you're just meant to have babies, and you're just a man and you're meant to be the hunter but you're dumb, and the child is eternally abandoned and left to fend for itself. It has the abandonment issues. You feel let off, you feel left out, you don't know how to address, how to be part of society. Okay, so as you can understand, the metaphysical explanation of the of creation requires the masculine principle of thought, of thinking, of bringing things into focus. The feminine principle within is there to intuitively, kindly, caringly, lovingly bring the information through. That is a unity already. And then the child, which is the third part, or the star, or the infinite potential, as I've said to you, is meant to bring the expression through, ultimately consisting out of the male and the female in unity. Your soul determines where there is a more, determines your personality and your sexuality within your physical form. It also determines your physiological form, your manhood or your womanhood. And so I would like for you to take note that now that I've addressed it in this particular way, I am hoping that you will take note and understand why things are the way they are. What is currently happening in this world is the abuse, direct abuse, deliberate segregation, and dehumanizing of the masculine and the feminine principles within this reality, ultimately then doing whatever they want to do with the information and breaking it up so that you will feel abandoned. Okay, abandonment is a very serious feeling, because the human race has experienced the ultimate abandonment sense, because it comes from the original agreement, perhaps subjected to bullying, or the perhaps deliberate decision making of making idols of what is essentially sacred and cannot be made into any human form, is the understanding or the interpretation of the supreme creator, a God, or the universal force that exists, whatever you want to call God, or the supremacy of the force, or Allah, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, God. Let's use the human term for this expression. Making the understanding of a force that is not meant to be scored or underrated or be rated to a human form, which means, or an idol or an expression. Seriously? That is big damage. That is damage that creates the separation from the sacred connection from within. And that is what's going on. This drive that is happening right now, with all its geopolitical descriptions to it, the reset and a this and a that and a etc., 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 is essentially the plan. There is a serious desire to dehumanize the human race. This means that the essential drive is to remove the awareness of the divinity, let's use another human word for it, within. And the way it was done in the first place was introducing to some human being, once upon a time, a ideology that would ultimately change the entire race of humanity. And that ideology or belief was to sell your soul. It was basically like selling your soul off. But to buy into the understanding that you don't have to do all the spiritual work anymore. I mean, just worship the doll. Just worship this idol, idol, idol. Worship it. And it's just going to be like a shortcut to, having to walk all the way up to them onto the Mount Sinai to go and find the deeper spiritual connection with the Creator. So you are lazy, and you have agreed to that. My explanation to understanding the entire process is really based on philosophy and the metaphysics of an original print pattern that we have always had within us as the human race. I would like you to strive, decide, work within yourself to connect to all of the parts within you. Today you think you need to go and work in the garden. Here's an example of how masculine and feminine thinking works. You want to go work in the garden, or you want to go and fix that thing up. That's masculine. But sitting there and not doing it, but just thinking about it, becomes an out of balance masculinity until you actually do the actions. All right? Or the other way around, depending on what it is that you want to go and do. So explore, go read up, find out what is masculine, what is feminine in the brain. All right? That is the first place you should look at. And then from there on, you will already have like 60%, maybe 70% of your insight opened up to you in terms of this particular subject. So I'm leaving this with you. Much to think about and much love. Bye.